Hey guys, welcome back to Stanny Boy Reviews. I'm your host, Stanley. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out my channel, where I talk about my favorite horror films and perhaps your favorite horror films. Before I get into it, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. First, I wanted to correct myself. On last week's review of the movie Torn Hearts, I mispronounced a plethora of names. The writer's name. Her name is Rachel Kohler Croft, not Rachel Kohler Craft. Brea Grant, the director of Torn Hearts. It is not Brea Grant, it is Brea Grant. And also, it's Angela Bettis subsequently, not subsequently. All right, with that out of the way, I'm at the point where people are sending me gifts. So thank you, Brian, for sending me this cute little guy. And also, my boyfriend, Christopher, got me this little ghost face as well. It's a handmade by robots little Stitch ghost face. And sure, he's my boyfriend at all, but I just wanted to point out that I'm receiving little gifts from people, and I think that's a lot of fun. So thank you guys. Brian Street, Christopher Bueso, I love you guys. Thank you so much for giving me things. Okay, anyway, hi, here we are back to scheduled programming. We have a new movie release within the last week, and that is Alex Garland's Men. And since I kindly passed on Firestarter, sue me, everything I have heard about this new one has not been good. I thought I would give this one a shot. So I dragged my little gizmo to the local AMC because we are pass holders and we don't take advantage of it enough. We grabbed an overpriced bottle of water and an overcooked slab of pizza from the ray of sunshine behind the counter, made our way into the slightly packed theater, and prepared to watch what reviews are calling a horrifying masterpiece from the director of Ex Machina. Here I go again. All I know is that I've never seen a movie directed by Alex Garland, but I did watch 28 Days Later, which he wrote, and I did watch Sunshine, which he also wrote, and I love both of those films. I did watch The Beach way back when, and I know that's based off of the novel that he wrote as well. So I guess I'm kind of a fan of his work, but I just don't know a lot of his stuff. I didn't really know a lot about this movie going into it, and sometimes it's better that way. I will say that I do like Jessie Buckley, and I did like The Lost Daughter. That's all I know about this movie. And that it's an A24 picture, and most A24 pictures are pretty hit. That being said, let's get into it. Men is about a young woman named Harper Marlowe, played by Jessie Buckley, who recently lost her husband. She's grieving, so she books a beautiful, isolated country home. And when I say home, it's more like a mansion. And it's owned by this kooky, creepy guy named Jeffrey, played by Rory Kinnear. And she does this all by herself so she can recover from the death of her husband. Of course, it doesn't take long before a scary, naked man wanders out of the nearby forest and into her lawn, which rightfully so frightens the living out of her. And from that point forward, it is all downhill, and a lot of weird and up things happen, and none of the men in the village can be trusted because they're all crazy. They kind of offset Harper's paranoia. This causes Harper to not really realize what's real anymore, and soon enough she has to face her demons in this big old house and come to terms with the death of her husband and everything that's going on inside of her head, and yada 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 yada. And honestly, a lot of it sounds a lot more interesting and scary than it actually was. I really, really wanted to like it. And maybe I missed something. What? But I don't think I actually did. And don't get me wrong, the first half of the movie really had me. I was feeling it. Jessie Buckley acted the out of her part, and Rory Kinnear did as well. I mean, as the only two actors in this movie, they both really went for it, and they played their parts with a vigorous intensity that a lot of actors could only wish they could concoct between each other as actors. But by the time the third act rolls around, every time I record a review, someone gets murdered outside, and there's like a helicopter that like flies over my apartment. As I was saying, by the time the third act rolls around, everything had kind of fallen pretty flat for me, and that's when everything is supposed to be getting good, and the onslaught of metaphors had just become a little too much. And my poor boyfriend and I were just staring at the screen and then looking at each other and then staring back at the screen. And that's kind of what it was. Unfortunately, it was just kind of boring. There were parts where I'm sure Garland was kind of going for gut punches, and visually, I'm sure it worked for a lot of the other people in the audience and other people worldwide, but it just didn't work for me. I've seen so much worse and I've seen so much better, and it either went over my head or it just didn't do its job. Either or. And I guess I just wasn't its target audience. But I must reiterate, the first part of the story really sold me. I was rooting for Harper and what she was going through, but when the story took the weird turn that it did, and you'll know what I'm talking about if you see it and when it gets there, it just didn't make a lot of sense for me. And at that point, I just didn't care anymore. And the metaphors just didn't translate on the screen the way that they could have or should have. Maybe I'm an idiot, or maybe I'm just not smart enough for a movie like this, or maybe those are the same thing. And that's okay, but really, I just didn't understand what was actually happening towards the end. I thought I did. I wanted to. I will say, the music was beautiful. The effects were really good. The settings and locations were top-notch. Jessie Buckley and Rory Kinnear were great. And for all of those reasons, on Stanny's Stab-O-Meter, I will give this movie 1 stab. I can safely say I will never watch this movie again. I'm glad I did, I guess. I just didn't get it. When you have to try to explain something to yourself as well, why bother? Like, just take the hit. Like, I just didn't like it. But I also think that The Blair Witch Project 2, Book of Shadows, should have been an Oscar contender. So that goes to show you what my taste of movies really is. So you guys tell me, what did you think of Men? Leave some comments, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, and you guys, subscribe! I love you all. Have a great week, have a great weekend, have a great life. I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching. I'll be back next week with something. It might be a review, it might be an interview. We'll see. Until then, you guys take care.